The top 5 worst franchises in NBA history. Nothing is more agonizing to watch in professional basketball than a team that has so much potential but is perpetually constrained by an ineffective front office. So let's look at the 5 worst NBA franchises in history. Welcome back to the Backboard. Number 1, Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves made the playoffs every year from 1997 to 2003 thanks to Kevin's talent and anything is possible attitude, but because they never gave Garnett a strong supporting cast, they were eliminated from the playoffs in the first round each and every time. In 2004, however, he finally had enough high-caliber teammates to support him. The Lakers defeated the Timberwolves in the Conference Championship Series in 6 games. Following that, there were 13 chilly winters marked by poor draft choices and playoff failures. With Jimmy Butler on the roster in 2018, the Wolves finally broke their losing skid and qualified for the postseason. Due to Jimmy's famed feud with the entire squad and demand to be traded after 32 years as a franchise, that brief taste of prosperity left a bitter aftertaste. Only 10 times did Minnesota make the playoffs, and they only had 2 postseason series victories. They only won 40 of their games and had an average of 32 victories per season, which is the poorest win-loss record in NBA history. Number 2, Sacramento Kings. The Kings, in contrast to the majority of the teams on this list, have some title banners. The only issue is that most people who recall those championships are older than 80. In 1947, the franchise's first year of existence, it won the championship. The NBA wasn't even the NBA at the time the Royals won the 1951 NBA title. The Kings were then known as the Rochester Royals. After the Royals defeated the Knicks to win the NBA championship, things only got worse. The Royals relocated to Cincinnati in 1957, staying there for 15 years. Despite having Oscar Robertson, the best point guard of that era, and a dependable all-star on the team, the Cincinnati Royals were only able to win 2 postseason series during that time. The Royals changed their name to the Kings and relocated to Kansas City in 1972. They stayed there until 1985 when the team moved to Sacramento for the following 13 seasons. The Kings only twice made the playoffs, and in 2001 they won their first playoff series. The following 2 years under Chris Webber's direction were the finest in modern Kings history. Sacramento had the best record in the NBA and won 61 games. They made it to the conference championship, but regrettably, the Lakers defeated them in 7 games. Number 3, Los Angeles Clippers. Like any new franchise, the Clippers were established in 1970 as the Buffalo Braves. Although it wasn't very good, things quickly improved. Their center, Bob McAdoo, was named Rookie of the Year in 1973. From 1974 to 1976, he was the NBA's leading scorer and received the MVP title. Adrian Dantley, who averaged 20 points per game and earned Rookie of the Year honors, was selected by the Braves in the 1976 draft. Additionally, in 1976, Moses Malone, an NBA All-Star, was added. The Braves had 3 outstanding players in 1977 who were all 25 years old or younger, but by the end of the season, they had none. The ownership of the Braves traded 3 future Hall of Famers over the course of a year and received 3 bags of chips back in exchange. The team then moved to San Diego and settled on the name Clippers. Donald Sterling purchased the team in 1981 and pledged to keep the San Diego-based team. Sterling was forced to pay a $6 million fine after moving to Los Angeles without authorization 3 years later. They traded away future All-Stars Tom Chambers and Terry Cummings despite having drafted them. In 1992, the Clippers qualified for the playoffs for the first time under their new moniker. They won their first playoff series in 2006. From 1976 until 2011, they went 29 years without winning a playoff series, which is the longest drought in NBA history. Racist remarks made by their owner, Donald Sterling, caused him to sell the team, adding further embarrassment to the organization. However, with the new owner, Steve Ballmer, the Clippers are more stable than ever. After 51 years, they finally reached the conference finals in 2021. If you want to know more about the NBA, then subscribe to our channel. Number 4, Charlotte Hornets. When Charlotte received its NBA team in 1988, they earned the moniker Hornets and rapidly established a reputation for themselves. With players like Muggsy Bogues, Alonzo, the grieving Del Curry, and Larry Grandmama Johnson, they were one of the most entertaining teams to watch and possessed one of the most iconic uniforms in the whole NBA. The Hornets enjoyed great success in the 1990s. The squad reached the conference semifinals 4 times during the regular season in Charlotte's playoffs. However, Charlotte was left without an NBA club in 2002 when the team's owner, George Shinn, decided to move the organization to New Orleans. Charlotte regained ownership of an NBA team in 2004, this time under the name Bobcats. The Bobcats, on the other hand, never truly had the appeal and success of the Hornets. Their uniforms weren't as attractive, and they continued to have a dismal record even after Michael Jordan acquired the team in 2010. The 2011 and 2012 Bobcats had the poorest season in NBA history, winning just 7 games out of 66. The Bobcats developed a reputation for failure, making the playoffs twice until being swept in 2014. They brought back the Hornets moniker and the stylish uniforms, but the outcomes remained largely unchanged and they continued to miss the playoffs. Charlotte's only playoff victory was 20 years ago, and Michael Jordan was frequently made fun of for making bad GM picks. The only 2 teams that have never advanced to the conference finals are the Pelicans and the Hornets. Number 5, the New York Knicks. It took the Knicks 20 years to achieve victory once more, but in 1970, under the leadership of Clyde Frazier and Willis Reed, they won the championship. In 1973, the Knicks helped New York win its first NBA championship, and Pearl Monroe helped them win another one. In the Garden, these were its heydays. The 1980s were mainly unsuccessful, but coach Pat Riley and Patrick Ewing did not lead the 1990s. When Jordan made his initial retirement, the Knicks started to consistently make the playoffs. Unfortunately for them, New York made it through the East and reached the finals. Just as it appeared that Ewing was getting too old and the Knicks would miss the 1999 playoffs, Hakeem and the Rockets were too powerful and the Knicks lost Game 7. As the 8th seed, they nevertheless managed to advance to another NBA Finals. The Spurs ensured that their Cinderella tale wouldn't have a happy ending, despite the fact that they were the first and only 8th seed to advance to the finals. The Knicks lost in 5 games despite finishing the decade without a championship because Tim Duncan was too good and the New York Knicks were a respectable team with a tough defensive reputation. Because of this, nobody could have guessed what would happen once James Dolan took over the team in 1999. Dolan and president of basketball operations Isaac Thomas oversaw the slow but inexorable descent into disaster that followed. The Knicks began paying bad players excessive salaries, made poor picks in the draft, and overall destroyed their status as a successful team in the new millennium. Despite having well-known teams in the 1970s and 1990s, the Knicks only made the playoffs 6 times and won 1 postseason series. Almost everything that happened after 2000 was a total failure. The Knicks became a laughingstock due to poor decisions and a lack of stability, and New York is now one of the worst NBA teams. What do you think about all this? Do comment below. Also, hit the subscribe, like, and bell icons.